it's Ashwin Rao. On the eve of the 2023 New York Super Trunk Show, the inaugural Super Trunk Show featuring a wide range of brands across the classic menswear segment of shoe wear, a platinum sponsor for that particular trunk show, and an emerging shoemaker that leads the charge amongst the Indian shoemakers that are now emerging strongly upon this scene is Bridlen shoes. So I wanted to give you my formal review of Bridlen shoes now that I've actually worn this pair that I received as a review pair. And I wanted to take you through this brand who I honestly think deserves your strong attention, for particularly the audience of you who are interested in entering and securing a pair of affordable, extremely high quality shoes. I will say that the brands that I got interested in early in my journey were brands like Santos, TLB Mallorca, and Carmina. Those were the entryway into the mid-tier of the classic menswear segment, with Goodyear welted finishing, higher quality fit and finish, relatively elegant, somewhat unique lasts, and high quality leathers. And so we get Bridlen entering this segment actually at the lower end of the segment, positioning themselves financially between brands such as, say, Meerman, which is considered an entry point into the classic menswear segment at around $200 to $250. And then the Carmina at the low end, you're talking about $350 to $400. Bridlen has positioned them in this segment. But I think Bridlen has done a really remarkable job to offer quite a bit at that level of TLB Mallorca, Carmina, and others. And we're gonna take a look at the shoe to tell you why. So as you can see, this is a Wholecut shoe. This is a Wholecut because it only has one seam. That is the back heel seam right here, with a little tab that brings the lasting into a little bit more unique and easy manner. And just a beautiful design for an elegant style that you could wear to a wedding, you could wear getting married, or you can wear to the office. This is quite a versatile style, and a style that I specifically earmarked to test out a variety of brands, particularly this Indian emerging shoemaker market. So Bridlen has been around the longest of any of those Indian shoemakers, and I was very curious, so I reached out to Zahan, one of the two individuals who started the brand, or at least took over for the brand and have raised its international prominence, along with Afan. And he was kind enough to send me this pair to try out and review, but did not ask for any specific positive review or anything like that. So I'm gonna go through this as unbiased as I possibly can for somebody who's received a pair of shoes. But I wanted to take you through the details of this shoe, as well as now having worn this, where I think the strengths and potentially some of the weaknesses are. So first off, this is a Goodyear welted shoe, and you can see if I pull into the shoe outsole stitching that this has a really high density outsole stitch. This is a density of stitching that's higher than what would come from, say, Carmina or TLB Mallorca at the 9 to 10 stitch per inch density. And it is somewhat close to what I would see from, say, a Gaziano and Girling or Edward Green in terms of the level of fit and finish. So you're getting some really high quality, clean, detailed, albeit machine stitched work that you can see as I pull in here to really define Bridlen right off the bat as somebody worth reckoning with. Now you can see this very gentle, elegant fudge detail. That's what I would call a light level of fudging, so more appropriate for a classic menswear. The more rugged the fudging, or the more deep that fudging gets, the more casual the look is. The shoe has a relatively block style heel, so pretty standard for your entryway, and what I consider a beveled waist, meaning that the edge of the waist here is curved. It actually is shaved down a little bit to soften that edge and transition into this beautiful round waist. So now that I have the shoe on its undersurface, I wanted to talk a little bit about the work that is done here that it very much impresses me about Bridlen. This is exceptionally high quality sole work. This is work that to me trumps anything I've ever seen from certainly Carmina, and is at a level comparable, although with different features, to say TLB Mallorca, which has a Goodyear welted, very narrow waist. I think that TLB probably would be considered a higher quality waist, but the cleanliness and the elegance of this last, how the bottom of the shoe is presented, the heft and the kind of strength that this sole provides, the comfort on foot with a cork footbed and all the welting finishes. This is one of the highest quality soles in my entire closet. They use Triumph style toe plates here, and you can see the edge work done here. Standard edge dressing with this flat edge here, and then that beveling that we talked about that starts right here into that waist and then transitioning into the heel block. The heel block itself is a full grain stacked leather sole. I believe it's hand stacked, and you can see just a smidge of fudge work done on the upper. I've certainly seen better fudge work in this segment from brands like Carmina and TLB, so I would say that's something that Bridlen could certainly work on if they wanted to. You can see a more traditional standard nail work done with 4 nails here, 5 nails on the other side, nothing fancy in terms of the nail work done. But the overall aesthetic and shape and comfort that is provided by this sole, very highly impressed by that. So you see 5 blind eyelets. If you flip the eyelets over, you can see that these eyelets are protected on the inside. This is something that I've not seen from some of the other brands in this segment. Sometimes they just have raw leather, which can eventually fray with lots of wear, so that metal support on the backside of this blind eyelet will actually provide quite a bit of longevity to this shoe and preserve the leather. I've worn this shoe a couple times, and you can see fine creasing here, so it's nothing jagged, nothing harsh. I've certainly worn this shoe for 2 full work days at this point, and you can see that the shoe, despite being a hole cut, which is a challenge to properly click and last and then not get creasing, they've done a nice job here. The leather seems to be of high quality. It's certainly full grain and doesn't seem to have that much looseness of grain, although I do see maybe slight bit of loose grain right in this area here. So where are some of the negatives of this shoe? Well, I think the last is a nice last, and I've shined the shoe up a little bit to kind of give you an impression of this last. This is a soft square last with a very subtle chisel that you can see there. I mean, very subtle chisel. You can't really see it if I put the shoe on profile. So you can maybe just call this a standard soft square last. It's somewhat elongated. This is not the most asymmetric last, and for me, a lot of the pairs that I've seen at a more elevated level, as well as some of the pairs in this comparison from, say, Oblum, have more asymmetry to the last. And I know that Bridlen is targeting a broader market where some of the features that somebody like me would enjoy, a more asymmetric last, a little bit more shape to that last. They're not targeting that market, though they have a Founders Limited line coming out that I believe will have some higher levels of fit and finish. I do not know if they use the same lasts that they use across the different lines, but from a last standpoint, a little less interesting, particularly given that the hole cut really features the design of the last prominently, because there's not much to distract you from that. I did get a very subtle hot spot right in this area on my 5th toe during the course of a long work day, my first work day. I didn't feel that as much during my second work day, and I don't know if that's because the shoes have broken a little bit or my feet gotten used to it, or maybe I was wearing a different pair of socks, but I did notice a little bit of a hot spot kind of in that area. So maybe for somebody with standard to slightly on the wide side feet, consider sizing up on your width if that's possible. Again, that very fine break here along the top of the vamp, nothing egregious at all. So very impressed by the clicking of that last, as well as the high quality on the outsole stitching, which is incredible. The other thing I mentioned is that they do recess their outsole stitching here to create a semi-blinded waist. You can see the outsole stitching a little bit more easy on the inside here, but that stitching is recessed and gives a little bit more elegance to the look. So this is their mainline shoe. They have a Founders line and a Founders Limited line, each which offer slightly higher levels of fit and finish. And Bridlen has told me that after the trunk show, they're planning to send me a pair from their Founders Limited line. So I'm gonna look forward to taking a look at that and reviewing that pair. But from my standpoint, I'm very impressed by the platinum sponsor for the 2023 New York Trunk Show. That is Bridlen Shoes. The shine on this was done by Paul Brungard. I know that they are coming rapidly on the scene for shoe care. I really like the color of this particular new tan leather here. You can see the side profile of the shoe. This has a medium height instep, which is appropriate for most people, and a really elegant design aesthetic. Bridlen has done a great job to bring a shoe like this to the market in several very well-defined lines. My understanding is that they're continuing to grow their market, but they are sort of aiming at that market that's probably more relevant to people who are interested in, say, an Allen Edmonds entry-level shoe, and yet offer some qualities here that put them firmly at a quality level into that mid-tier segment. And maybe their Founders Limited line will even have higher levels of fit and finish. I'll see when I get there. But Bridlen shoes, top-notch maker. You should really give them a call if you want a daily driver shoe that you could put some miles on. Very comfortable, very elegant. Obviously has some nice breaking in, as you can see here, and the soles also, as I mentioned, do a nice job breaking in and wearing. They don't show that much wear even after a couple of hard days at the office. You can see how nice the soles have held up there. So all in all, Bridlen shoes, very impressed with them. You should give them a try.